Hello, my name is Duke Rivard. I'm the Executive Director of Saturate. I want to tell you about a resource we've created called Strong Church. Strong Church is really an audit for a local body. It's an opportunity for leaders in the church to zoom out a little bit and to take inventory on the current state of the church, all for the purpose of pursuing greater fruitfulness, greater faithfulness on the mission of God. This is really built out of an awareness that all of us are constantly on the treadmill of Sunday's coming. We're aware that it's always there and that we have so many week-to-week responsibilities that sometimes we get lost in the work that God's given us. And this really invites us to zoom out to 30,000 foot and work on the church, not just in the church. Work on capacity building, not just living within the maintenance mode of what your current church looks like. And I hope it's an invitation to approach holistic fruit. You know, all of us have a few things that we really get excited about in ministry, and our tendency is to probably double down on those areas, even while we neglect some things that we don't enjoy. I hope you see this process as an opportunity to give equal attention to 15 different commitments for a strong New Testament church, and that results in great fruitfulness in your church, holistically, in a balanced way. Well, the Strong Church definition, as I mentioned, it's built on 15 commitments. And we say commitments because this is something you've probably already given attention to. And it's something you'll need to give attention to in the future. It's just something that you know if you're going to be fruitful long term, you'll have to stay committed to it. Okay, so these things won't be new for you. They won't even be things that you haven't spent time working on in the past, perhaps. They'll just be things that we want to continue to sustain and strengthen en route to gospel saturation. So a strong church is, number one, committed to being founded on Christ and the apostles' teaching. Number two, it's really built on a consistent, reinforced, clear theological vision, that you have clarity and alignment in your church about where you're going and the values that drive you forward. Commitment three is about spirit dependence and corporate prayer. And this is really just an acknowledgement that we need the power of God and the wisdom of God and the direction and the gifts of God to actually be the church on the mission. Commitment four is all about reaching not yet believers through equipped people who are accountable and fervent in reaching their neighbors and friends with the gospel of Jesus Christ. Commitment five is all about developing your leadership core. As our leadership core gets deeper and wider year over year, our church gets more capacity to get after the work in our city. Commitment six is about being contextualized and diverse, reflecting the community where we're planted. Increasingly, we want to make the gospel intelligible to a particular people, to the people that are around us, making sure that only the gospel is offensive, that nothing else we're doing culturally is a stumbling block for those coming to know Christ. Then we look at multiplying communities of disciples with commitment six, which is teaching people how to be with Jesus, how to become like Jesus, and how to do what Jesus did in the everyday stuff of life. Commitment eight is about exalting Christ and equipping saints in regular worship gatherings built on robust gospel liturgies. This is about Sunday. This is about coming around for worship. This is about coming around to be encouraged and built up and to be reminded of the truths of God and to connect with God as we go out into another week of worship and discipleship. Commitment nine is about children's discipleship. It's about equipping parents and creating environments that really help us do age-appropriate discipleship of young ones and teenagers and those that are in different stages. Commitment 10 is doing justice and remembering the poor. We know that this is God's heart, that He has a burden for the weak, for the marginalized, and He calls His church to share that burden. Number 11 is about biblically qualified elders. What does it mean to have a strong plurality? What does it mean to lead in concert and humility in the church? And what does it mean to be served in Commitment 11 by qualified deacons who really do remove bottlenecks and create administrative support so that the church and the gospel can move forward? Commitment 13 is about being financially sustained, responsible, and generous, realizing that our resources tell a story about our heart. They tell a story about our values and how an individual and how a church stewards financial resources really matters. Commitment 14 is about being always reformed, which is to say the Spirit is always speaking, the Spirit is always shaping, convicting, and conforming us increasingly into the image of Christ. And we're open and curious and approachable by God and others as we continue to grow in faithfulness. Commitment 15 is about sharing our strength with other churches in the city, in the world, realizing that we can't accomplish the Great Commission alone, that we're better together, that we'll plant stronger churches as we do so in concert with one another, that we'll learn from other traditions and tribes, and that we'll be able to partner to see more happen in our city as we build infrastructure together, as we own the lostness of our city together. We hope that this resource serves you and your church. We hope that you find insight about all the grace that's already there in your church that you can celebrate and leverage to reach more in your city. We hope as you discover some areas of weakness or some gaps in the build that you get clarity about how to increase those things and how to see even greater fruitfulness in those things. I believe each one of us is called to take our work seriously before God, to take our vocation as shepherds of God's flock seriously, because Jesus is worthy. So I pray this resource leads you in that way. I hope it comes alongside all the work you've been doing for many years and just gives you another step in that same long journey towards pleasing Jesus, towards advancing the gospel, towards loving your city.